Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're doing another tier list. I know you guys seem to like the first one, some of you really hated it, but yeah, I have more knowledge of the game now. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the Knight faction only. I did get this idea from Zero Skill No Fun. I did see that he broke up his tier list via faction. So we'll be doing the Knights right away, and it's going to be a duels tier list, and then we're going to be doing the Vikings after, the Samurai, and then the Outlander and Wulin together. Basically, how I'm going to do this is it's just going to be a 4-part series for duels and then a 4-part series for Dominion. So we're going to do duels for Knights, duels for Vikings, Samurai, Outlander, Wulin, and then Dominion for Knights and Vikings and Samurai and you know, etc. Alright, so enjoy and let's get started. So first off, we are starting with Warden. Warden is an incredibly simple character. He does have a lot of chain pressure with his moveset. It is a lot of unblockables. Every one of his moves does chain nicely into his unblockable and right into his bash. His bash pressure is pretty good. You can like immediately go into level 1 bash that guarantees 2 lights, or the charge shoulder bash that does guarantee that top heavy, like he did just see there. Yeah, and his chain bash pressure is really nice right there. You can charge him in a row, let him go. The only downside to Warden is his limited stamina and his also inability to crush and counter from all sides. One big plus with Warden is that he does have sweeping unblockables, so if you do throw the side unblockables, they do hit pretty nicely if the iframes don't kick in right away. And yeah, Warden being able to chain every one of his moves into his unblockable and into his bash, and his bash also being one of the best in the game. Maybe not one of the best, but one of the most reliable bashes in the game, does make him a pretty decent hero. The only problem again is his limited stamina and his limited chain. I would like to see Warden be able to zone in like light attack, or you know, do some more stuff that does involve his sword, like maybe turn his sword around and use the Hilton Guard like as a secondary mode. That'd be pretty cool for Warden. With all that being said with Warden, I think I'm going to be placing him at B tier right now. Again, this isn't final placements. I do move people around usually at some point in the video. But yeah, right now Warden is going to sit at the top of B. Alright, next up on the block, we do have PK. You're gonna see here, I was just straight up losing. It was so difficult to play PK, especially at a higher level. At low levels, she is pretty strong because her light spam is pretty elite. You can light and get right into your bleed very nicely, and once you do get into your bleed, your lights are then enhanced. And also, you do get into her unblockable pressure. That's where PK starts to get a little scary. But it is so hard to open people up with PK at a higher level, or even at like an intermediate level. It is very tough. She has 0 opener, and her damage is incredibly low when she's not bleeding somebody. Her deflect isn't all that great. Her dodge attack, you know, they did give everything more recovery with PK. They're slowly turning her into a nice recovery force character. But in duels, I honestly, like, she can be really top tier at like lower levels, but even at medium levels and especially at high level. And I mean, I played at a pretty high level most of the time. Other than that, yeah, she's pretty bad. And yeah, keeping with the theme of my last tier list, I am gonna unfortunately put PK in D tier. As much fun as, you know, she can be sometimes at like lower level, or people who just can't react, and her fashion's great, but she just honestly isn't that great of a character. It is incredibly tough to really do anything with PK, and it really does suck. But yeah, PK again for me is going to be at D tier. Alright, so the first Roman of the two, we're moving on to Centurion. Centurion didn't get that change for his charge punch. It does take a little bit longer, but it is supposed to track better, and also has hyper armor on it now, which it did have before, but it's supposed to be more reliable. Centurion can throw his punch off of a whiffed heavy now, which makes him a little bit more tricky to deal with. His kick is his opener, but it's not really an opener. It's pretty lackluster, to be honest. His parry punishes are pretty nice. He can wall splat off a heavy parry, and also can charge his heavy when he gets a light parry just to stun them more. Centurion can feint his punches. It's not as convincing as like Warmonger or anything like that, or Warden, but it is, you know, it can still catch, but it is pretty hard to like make that read, and you can't feint it nearly as late as the other heroes that can feint their bashes. Centurion also does a good 30 damage when he does land the charge punch, which is great, but it resets the fight. So it's not like you can like continuously chain like Tiandi after a kick. It just resets everything back to neutral, which does kind of suck. Resetting the fight for Centurion isn't that bad though, because it lets you go right into your kick if you can land that, which does have a good amount of delay, to be honest. And his charged heavy does have a lot more range. When you reset that fight, people don't really expect that charged heavy to actually like reach them at all, and it is enhanced obviously, so you go right into your chain. Even if the heavy doesn't land, you can go right into your punches. So yeah, that is Centurion for the most part. He does have really nice chain pressure, but unfortunately you can double dodge his charge bash. And if you're any of the characters with a decently fast dodge bash, you just bash him out of his unblockable, and you can't feint it quick enough or as convincing enough as the other characters with variable time bashes. And it kind of just makes Centurion kind of lame. I wish that they could figure out a way. They could just figure it out how to make his punch land, because his charge punch, it also will just miss still, like a lot of the characters like Kensei and And Zanhu, I don't know why. Yeah, I wish they could fix a way for Centurion to be able to land that charge punch more often. And, you know, also his lack of openers is pretty killer. I will say his ability to soft feint his attacks does make him just a little bit better. It does allow him to rip people a lot out of their animations and out of their dodge attacks a lot more consistently than anybody else in the cast that doesn't have the soft feint ability. But yeah, his kick is a decent opener, but not great at high levels or even intermediate. But his ability to soft feint attacks and his punch pressure and his ability to feint into parries or into his GB from feint does, in my opinion, put Centurion just a little bit above Warden here, just because he can't soft feint his unblockables and his heavies, and also his kick is just a little bit better of an opener than anything that Warden has. But yeah, he's not that much better because Warden does have a crushing counter, and he also his unblockable does sweep. But again, you can't soft feint, and his opener is pretty lackluster. So BP is a very strong hero in 1s and also 4s. He's just, you know, a jack of all trades type of hero. He is the only character in this tier list that's going to have crushing counters on all sides, a really scary bash follow-up that does allow a light right into his bulwark and unblockable, and also an undodgeable that lets him go right into his chain. His ability to chain into his bulwark and into his attacks makes him like really scary and hard to deal with. One downside though to BP is that his unblockable can just be optioned. You just light him right out of it. It does suck. It has 0 hit stun, the attack that follows. The one unique thing about BP is he's the only character in the game with an all guard that can flip. He just can counter everything. Drop attacks, bashes, heavies, lights, unblockables, undodgeables, all of it. He can flip anything. BP's kit is basically designed to just take care of like any situation that he has. Crushing counters makes him incredibly scary because you can just option your heavies, and if you don't make the read to parry, he can just light you out of that the entire time. His bash pressure is crazy. His zone, it got sped up to his zone did get sped up, so it is really hard to react to. His stamina drain is crazy for some reason. His bash is delayable, like puts him right into his chain again. He does have a heavy soft feint to bash for a little bit of range. Not that great. It's pretty, you know, easy to react to because he does charge up basically in the beginning of it. So it's really not a good opener. He doesn't need that as an opener, but just because his normal bash is his opener and it has insane recovery. You can't guard brick him out of that. The only time you can is if you make the read to dodge early and then you get the GB, but other than that, no, you're not getting it. He does have recovery on all his moves that go into his all guard, although it's not as good as most of the other heroes that have all guard. It is really nice to use. But yeah, BP's damage and his unblockable being able to sweep also. His crushing counters, his delayed bash, regular bash, fast zone, stamina drain, able to flip everything. And he also does kind of have a deflect. It's basically like a crushing counter. You do dodge forward heavy into somebody's top heavy attack or light attack, and you will get the attack to bounce off. Basically like the same as a deflect mechanic. So he kind of does have that. Yeah, BP is the first character here that is going to be going into the S tier category. Okay, so next we have Griffin. Now, you're going to see in the background footage, Griffin is either really good against like lower players or completely dog shit against higher players. His kick is insanely reactable. His bash his forward bash is basically useless. I couldn't even touch the Valkyrie that you're watching in the background here, that you're going to be seeing right now or in a few seconds, but yeah, Griffin is pretty lackluster. It feels like he does a lot of damage, but he honestly doesn't. The kick is reactable. You honestly can just keep throwing the heavy out and just tank the kicks. They'll add up, but yeah, his kick in chain is pretty reactable. His dodge forward bash is reactable. He does only have hyper armor on his finisher heavy after double light. He does not have any unblockables or undodgeables. He's really easily baited out into his dodge attack, which does have a decent amount of iframes to it, but it's really not that great of a dodge bash. It does put him right into his undodgeable light chain, his hyper armor heavy chain, or his kick. His hyper armor heavy does have a shit ton of sweep to it, which, you know, again has hyper armor, which is great. But yeah, his lack of unblockables and his lack of undodgeables and a real opener, honestly, does kind of kill Griffin for whatever reason. He used to feel like a powerhouse, but honestly, you can honestly dance around Griffin all day long. I stomped that Yorm and then I couldn't touch the Valkyrie. So he's really bad at higher levels and he's pretty good. He's like a powerhouse at like lower tier players. But anytime you get into like that intermediate setting, yeah, he's pretty much useless. You can't really touch anybody. Yeah, we're pretty much gonna go in like a vertical order here because Griffin is gonna be the first hero that's gonna go into C tier. Okay, so next we move on to Conqueror. I think we all know where he's gonna be placed, but yeah, I'm not the most efficient or good Conq player out there. There are obviously better ones. I don't like the hero. I used to love old Conqueror, but I think his new kit now is pretty brain dead, but incredibly effective. He does have first heavy is not unblockable, but all of his chain heavies therefore are unblockable and can be soft feinted into his all guard, and after that can be put into his bash, which does guarantee a heavy, and you can also feint the bash into guard break, which is fucking crazy. His dodge bash is insanely safe. It has great recovery, and he's one of those dodge bashes where you can bash other characters out of their charge bashes, like Warden and Centurion. His zone did get a nerf, obviously. It doesn't all guard from every side, but it's still kind of okay. It does chain into his unblockable, which can be kind of nice. He also does have chain lights that can be insanely delayed. And when you think that a unblockable is coming out and he throws out the light, it does trip you up just a little bit. Yeah, Conk is insanely safe, great bash, and just a character that's a guessing game. You just have to read and make guesses. You can react to indicators if you want, parry flash indicators, but you got to do that the entire time. Basically, with Conk's entire kit is super boring and hard to deal with, honestly. His all guard damage did get a nerf, but his all guard recovery is still great, and it's hard to deal with. His all guard recovery isn't obviously the best anymore, or even in line with a lot of the other characters because of the low damage, but it does put him right into his unblockable chain pressure. And his chain pressure is some of the best in the game because he's all orange, and you just have to make guesses. It's a guess game the entire time. It's just 50-50 battle. Yeah, with all that being said, I am gonna put Conk in S. I don't think anybody here was gonna deny that Conk was gonna go touch anywhere below S. Alright, so now we're moving on to Lobberinger. All he got was 200 milliseconds shaved off his bash, and it made him really annoying. Now, a Lobberinger isn't the best at higher levels. The bash is pretty reactable, and then his kit is the exact same, so he's even worse because the recovery also got nerfed on his dodge bash, so you can't parry attacks anymore after whiffing it. He's the exact same character as before. He's just more oppressive now to like lower or intermediate characters because his damage is crazy. You blind on everything. Off heavy parry, you blind into light right into your other light chain, into his unblockable or into his bash. You blind off heavy parries. You do blind off light parries with a top heavy, or with heavy parries you also get the choo-choo train, which puts people into walls, which does therefore make them blind again. He does blind quite a lot. It is really annoying. The stam drain and the stam pausing on his parries does make him kind of annoying to deal with. But again, he's pretty much the same character at the end of the day as before. He just got a better bash. Also kind of a worse bash because zero recovery on it. You can't GB Lobberinger now after whiffing a bash, and you can no longer parry attacks when whiffing a bash either. Yeah, Lobberinger's chain pressure is absolutely crazy. You can go into his bash, into a heavy, or into a light, which puts you right into his unblockable chain. And his unblockable is no joke. It does a pretty good amount of damage, and it has a lot of cleave to it as well. Lobberinger's parry punishes are actually insane, and his out of stand punishes are fucking wild. You get two top heavies that blind pause stam right into his unblockable or light or bash. You do get a stun tap light, and you also do get a choo-choo train that does put you into walls or ledge people as well. Yeah, with all that being said, I am going to put Lobberinger at the top of A tier. I think he's like just a big tier above Centurion here. But yeah, this is where Lobberinger is going to be placed. Okay, next we have my main, the second of the two-part Romans. We have Gladiator. Now, Gladiator thankfully did get his old toe stab out of stand punish back, and it's beautiful. I love it. Now, Glad for an assassin does have actually a lot of bashes. He has both of his punches that have insane iframes on the side. His dodge forward punch is pretty bad. It's super reactable. You can delay it, but even then, it's pretty ass. Gladiator really doesn't have an opener. His zone is his best opener. It's crazy. Even at higher levels, people don't dodge it, and you can feint it if you miss the bash, which is great. But if they also do go into like a dodge attack, you can let it rip, and most of the time, it will just hit them out of their dodge attack. Gladiator's skewer is insane. It does great damage. It just has no cleave and it leaves him vulnerable, which does kind of suck. But again, there should be some, punishes. Like, Glad shouldn't be able to dodge recovery or follow up with anything after a skewer. I think that would just be kind of nuts. His deflect does grant him bleed and also allows him to go into like a wall splat if he's near a wall. Toe stab out of stem again does knock people down to the ground into a skewer, which you can put them into a wall again. His skewer does also knock people down to the ground when they are out of stamina. Once you land it, you throw them to the ground and you get free 2 heavies. That goes right into his chain afterwards. You can toe stab basically after everything with Gladiator, and skewer after every single attack as well. It's basically like Warden. You can go right into your unblockable immediately after everything. And Gladiator's chain toe stab did get bumped up to 400 milliseconds, which is kind of quick, and you can delay it as well. People predict you go into the 500 ms toe stab. Yeah, Glad is one of the best assassins in this game, and he obviously is, out of the 2 assassins in the Knight faction, the best assassin in the game for the Knights. His zone is crazy, his delay is insane, his heavies are incredibly quick and feint like 3 heavies in a row, basically parry a heavy. It's wild. Yeah, I pieced Disrupt 70 Orochi to the ground with my Glad, just because he has a lot more tools. Honestly, not a lot more tools, but he just has a more reliable amount of damage than Orochi has. So yeah, with all that being said, I honestly think I'm going to put Gladiator in S tier. And now I might move him down because of his lack of an opener at the end of this tier list, but right now I do see Glad being an S tier character for the Knights. Alright, lastly here we do have Warmonger. I'm not a Warmommy main. I was losing a decent bit today with Warmonger. You can, with the Warlord, I'm going to show you some clips here with the Warlord. He didn't even go for any chain heavy parries or light attacks there because you don't have to. It just grants the bash. and he can just option me out of that all day long if he wants. And he was making good reads on my bash as well. Warmonger did get a buff with her chain hyper armor. It does come in a lot quicker, which is nice. I was kind of hit the Tiandi with that in the second match here. Warmonger's chain hyper armor did get a buff. It does come in a lot earlier, but Warmonger at even like intermediate levels is a pretty bad hero. Her chains just end. That's her only problem. Like, she basically is what everybody says is what Warden's supposed to be, but Warden is fantastic. Warden can go right into all of his chains after every one of his moves. Warmonger just ends everything. After a charged heavy, after a regular heavy, you get the attack and it ends, which does kind of suck for her. But she also does bleed off bashes now, which is good. Some people don't like it because it doesn't guarantee all the damage if they're low enough and you're low enough. Both characters are low. They can't panic light and kill even because your bash bleeds. It doesn't do direct damage anymore. But I still think it's great. When you do get heavy parries with Warmonger, you can't put them into the wall for free scratches. I think it's awesome. It kind of doesn't have as much range as I would like it to. The great thing about Warmonger is his charge bash is so feintable. You really can get away with just feinting the entire thing down to the last like millisecond of the animation and guard break somebody or go for a parry. Yeah, Warmonger, the lack of chain pressure and also her bash not being like the best because it does end her chain right there and then. Her zone is technically her opener, but it's quick, but it's also an easy animation to react to. And her unblockable is absolutely dog shit. It's super slow, has 0 iframes, and you can just grab her right out of basically the end bit of her animation. You can just grab her right out of that. It's kind of some out of stand pressure, but that's literally it. So with all that being said, with Warmonger, she's gonna go right beside Griffin here, and I'm actually gonna keep Griffin above Warmonger here in C tier. So we're going to do a little bit of a rearrange before the video ends here. So I am going to put Conk above BP here, and then I do think Glad is just a little bit worse than BP right here. So this is going to be the order for S tier. I think A tier is perfectly order, but honestly, I'm actually going to switch Centurion and Warden. You guys might not like that, but I find a lot more success with Warden's moveset than I do Centurion's. It's pretty lackluster. His lights are wimpy and everything else. I just think that Warden is just a better character to get more reliable damage with. Doesn't have as good of a moveset. I wouldn't say as good as a moveset, but he doesn't have as much as Centurion has, but it doesn't matter how much you have. If you can't get as much damage as Warden, then you're gonna go below him. I do think that Warden is just a little bit better than Centurion, but not a whole lot better. And C tier and D tier are gonna stay the way they are. Alright, well, I hope you guys did enjoy the tier list. Let me know if there's anything else that you guys would change. I'm sure you guys are gonna have some opinions because you guys had some opinions last time, and let me in on a lot of knowledge of some stuff that I did miss out on. Yeah, this is going to be a 4-part series with the other factions after this. Then after that, we're going to be doing a Dominion tier list for each faction. And then I think together at the end, we're just going to put one big ass tier list. It's going to be a lot of work, but that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I really want to know what you guys think, and I really do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, this is going to be a 4-part series with all the other factions and their dual tier list. So look out for that. I hope you guys are having a great new year, and yeah, I'm out of here.